It's a pleasure to be able to introduce to you Karen Wills. Karen has directed WUUSSAN, the Minnesota UU Social Justice Alliance, since 2019. She also served this September through November as the Voter Engagement Coordinator for WUUSSAN, the Wisconsin Unitarian Universalist Social Action Network, which links together social justice and climate action teams of 30 UU congregations across Wisconsin. A former campaign manager for city and state elections, Karen worked to organize about 450 volunteers with WUUSSAN, Wisconsin Voice, and the National UU The Vote campaign. She has coordinated with our Giorgia Brennan in our La Crosse's voter engagement project via postcards, letters, phone calls, texting, door knocking, voter registration tables at fairs, and other events. Wisconsin UUs reached at least 65,000 potential voters this year. Karen can speak to us on why and how faith-based organizing is different, but at least as important as political campaigning, and why at UU The Vote is an aspect of spiritual work of UU congregations, and how we may approach social and climate justice organizing in an accountable, effective, and sustainable way.
Thank you so much to the UU The Vote choir from 2020. It's such a marvelous legacy, I think, for us to be able to carry that memory of what we built in 2020 across the country, and then what we've learned since then to move that forward into 2022 and beyond. And it's a thrill to be here in La Crosse. I've been talking with Giorgia for several weeks now, and had a chance to kind of drive across Wisconsin, spent some time in Madison, and have been speaking with members of congregations across Wisconsin now for since about the last week of September, when I came in to fill in after the organizer for the Wisconsin UU State Action Network had stepped down just as we were launching into the election season this year. So what I'd like to do is share some slides this morning that just will illustrate and help us walk through a bit about what the Wisconsin UU State Action Network is all about in a general way, how we are connected nationally with the UUA side, with Love Resources, and with community partners, including several powerful multi-faith partners across Wisconsin, to be able to move forward not only on election work specifically, but more broadly on social justice work, because the election work that we do as Unitarian Universalists is one aspect of how we bring forward our faith into the world. When Cornel West says justice is what love looks like in public, and we're coming in on the side of love, we are doing justice in so many different ways. And an election and the work that we do around electing people who are going to build more love and more beloved community in the world is one tool, one tactic, and one aspect, a very important one, but by no means the only one. So Let me share a little bit because we've been running into a lot of people who don't even know what WUUSSAN is yet. And that is no surprise because it's one of the newer of the state action networks. WUUSSAN, which I direct in Minnesota, has been around for 15 years. WUUSSAN has really only existed for about 3 or 4 years now. And, you know, and so still is very much an emerging state action network. And it's a network that has one paid staff member, 10 hours a week. So it really is a network of volunteers. And what we like to say is that if you are a Unitarian Universalist in the state of Wisconsin, you are part of WUUSSAN, whether you know it or not. It is a formal organization. It's a nonprofit. That means it can accept donations and send you that nice tax letter at the end of the year. So heads up on that. And the president currently is Reverend Mark Richards, who's up in Door County congregation. Dr. Kayla Matz, who has her PhD in science education, as an environmental educator, very knowledgeable and active around climate justice in her life, and has been teaching students who are often the first person in their family ever to go to college, and advising and helping them to be able to overcome the struggles of being new college students. And so that's been Kayla's role. And she just came on a couple weeks ago as the new statewide organizer for WUUSSAN. And I can't wait for you to get to know her. She's just wonderful and is going to bring great energy and knowledge and some tactics to WUUSSAN moving forward. She's getting to know folks in the congregation, and will be, you know, connecting at least via Zoom, if not in person. And then I had rotated in, as Ron kindly said, as you know, sort of visiting fireman, just to work through this phase of the voter engagement work. Yeah, just because that's something that I had a fair bit of practice with. So, so we have on the WUUSSAN website, there's kind of a fun interactive map that we made that lets you see where all of the congregations are across the state of Wisconsin. And the purpose of each of our state action networks is not to come in and burden the congregations, you know, or any individuals in the social justice ecosystem with just one more group, one more thing to do, you know, one more set of priorities and initiatives, because none of us need that, right? We're already mostly stretched to the max, you know, with family and work and the volunteering that is such a strength in Wisconsin and in your congregation. It's not about adding on. It's about taking what we have and weaving it into a stronger network so that it isn't necessary for every single social justice team to kind of reinvent the wheel, so that when something happens, like our postcarding project, it's a statewide thing. There's an economy of scale to that for statewide work that makes us more powerful, more connected, more creative, tapping into all of the talent that we already have and constructing that as a joint shared kind of talent pool. And we also are able to tap into our community resources. So when I talk about an ecosystem of organizing, what we're doing is bringing in all of the social justice, racial justice, climate justice teams of every congregation, the UUA and affiliates at a national level also have deep resources, including some funding for initiatives that we want to do, and the Mid-America region does more broadly. We work with interfaith partners like the Wisdom Group, like the WEVAC, which is the Wisconsin Interfaith Voter Engagement Coalition, and then Wisdom is the statewide coalition of many, many interfaith groups in which UUs are leaders across the state. Community partners, the League of Women Voters in Wisconsin, oh my goodness, what a powerhouse. Leading the resistance in many ways to voter suppression, to oppressive policies, to racism, and othering immigrants and people of non-Christian religion. So the League is a huge powerhouse. Y'all have been working also with LIT, a youth-led organization. We work with Building Unity, bringing the democracy bus through conservation voters and other organizations with whom we can partner on particular initiatives. We don't have to necessarily overlap on every single thing to be able to partner effectively on certain projects and programs. The organizing that we do from a nonpartisan stance sometimes can be viewed as sort of a distraction, particularly if you're someone who is deeply committed to a particular party or you're backing a particular candidate. Go for it, all right? You need to be in that space. We honor that. That is a wonderful thing to do and very, very needed. And also, when we are tackling electoral issues from a faith basis, we bring in the principles that I was raised with. I remember, as a 5-year-old sitting around the campfire at the UU camp in California, where I grew up, singing "We Shall Overcome," and all of the grown-ups were marching at that time, and they were voting, and they were working to make sure that everyone else understood the power of their vote. They understood that we needed people in the streets, we needed nonviolent direct action, and we needed to be able to put legislators into positions of power, because voting is how we pick people who make choices that will move us forward towards beloved community. So our principles of the democratic process, of inherent worth, of the interdependent web, the idea that we all need all of us. And then the 8th principle that we're discussing and that WUUSSAN, my organization, has adopted and affirms, liberation from racism and from other oppressions, drive us into this electoral work. When we talk about organizing, we are not just talking about marching in the streets. We are not just talking about talking to legislators. We're talking about talking about a process that involves this continual cycle of preparation. So we're listening, we're reading, we have people going out and doing research and finding out about particular issues, similar to how the League of Women Voters has study groups, right? That's a very good example. Or how we might meet to pursue the beloved conversations, to really prepare ourselves to go out and do anti-racism in a way that doesn't cause harm, right? And that really is truly accountable and in solidarity with people that we need to be with, such as Black student voices, right? This lifting up, that kind of support. Reflection, thinking, chatting, writing, that planning process also is critically important. discerning who we're going to ally with and in what ways. Who are we going to follow? Are we being as good followers as we are leaders? Making those connections so that we are partnering on projects, particularly with the most heavily impacted frontline groups, and then and only then really moving into action. Not getting stuck with that reflection process forever so that we're in, kind of the endless coffee hour or the endless book club without ever actually taking that step towards action. But then when we take action, coming back to say, did we do that right? Where were our UU values in how we acted? And did we act with reason and with feeling and with movement? So where are we? We being La Crosse, right? Now, it would be extraordinarily presumptuous for me to come in as an outsider and speak to this in any deep way. I have had some conversations with Ron and with Giorgia. So I don't pretend to know all of the work that you all have done, but I know you've been doing the work. And what I want to lift up for you is that when we talk about doing the work of electoral organizing and UU the vote, and encouraging people to get out the vote and thinking about even these next two, couple of days that we've got now. What I'd really like folks to kind of just wrap up and put on a shelf is the concept that that is something you are not already doing, right? If you are one of the people who helped to build those accessible garden beds at Kane Street, if you're somebody who is serving in your food bank, if you're somebody who shows up at the homeless shelter and is knitting a hat or a shawl or some mittens for people to be warmer in the winter, if you've been to the Y and participated in the groups that they do around feminism on tap, if you are working with Citizens Climate Lobby, if you're working with SURJ, showing up for racial justice, if you're working with the Waking Up White Learning Collaborative, all of those things that you talk about already on the website that members of this congregation are connected with are opportunities to get out the vote. How does that work? Well, voter engagement work is not something that you're necessarily adding on as a completely separate project. When we look at the menu for what people can do and what you have been doing, it does have to be 100% nonpartisan. So that means you can talk to anybody, anywhere, in any circle. You don't have to know if they're Democrat, Republican, Socialist Workers Party, the Marijuana Party, whatever parties y'all have. You can talk about the importance of free and fair elections, the gift and the blessing of the fact that our elections in America are free and are fair. There's a huge amount of money being poured into them, but we don't have to pay any money to go cast our vote. Everyone counts and everyone matters, and there is a way for every single person, regardless of their mobility, their age, from kids to elders, their particular predilections. There is a way for every single person to be able to be engaged no matter how much time they have or don't have. So now, for example, look at what you've already done, right? Folks here have participated in the Octovoter Fest, which I love. It's such a creative title. I'm going to steal that for next year, totally. Thank you, Giorgia. You all have participated in the postcarding project where we spread those all over the state. We sent 5,000 postcards to Wisconsin young renters who are hard to reach in other ways. Moving forward, I've just organized text banking. We're going to be texting this evening again, all day tomorrow and all day Tuesday. Right now, we used up all of the texting that I had available for the state of Wisconsin. We went through that entire list of almost 50,000 names where we reached out to Wisconsin voters with a quick text message. UU the Vote events are happening all day today, all day tomorrow, and all day Tuesday. And those include making phone calls. And I'm going to be teaching and running more texting. It's a thing where you use your computer to send messages. And we send those messages out. We just sent 179,000 messages to the state of Texas over the last couple of days, and we'll double that. And then Giorgia has organized all day Tuesday, free food, childcare, and rides to the polls, again, as a way of building community, making these connections with Hope Restores and with the Boys and Girls Club to be able to enable every single person to have what they need to be able to vote. That's how we do it. We can, as people of faith, come into spaces and do things that the political campaigns don't have access to. We can be in the schools, we can be in the churches, and we can just encourage people to believe in and practice the democratic process, to have a voice and a vote. Finally, this year, more so than ever before, there will be an ongoing need for election protection and for combating disinformation. So even if the weather is terrible and you're holed up in your house, being able to hop onto look at the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin website, and you will see there some powerful tools for being able to talk back and talk about, don't use the phrases election integrity, don't use the phrases voter fraud. That's buying into a false narrative. But what we talk about is free and fair elections and the privileges of voting. There is no year without an election, and there is no cause to which an election is not part of the central tactic for moving forward. So going into 2023, in April, Wisconsin is electing a state Supreme Court justice who will be critically important, particularly as the national Supreme Court is increasingly deferring life-changing matters to the states. And then, of course, in 2024, there will be another presidential election. Okay. So thank you so much. And let me